Is that on the screen right now?
Yes. Oh no, it can be.
Okay, because I was going to say, because I'll be honest with you, what's his name plays Xavier. Mm-hmm. He's kind of got to look like I just farted right now, and you don't know. I mean, that's what he's kind of looking like. He's like, I just broke wind.
That's why she's looking that way too.
I know she's like, what is that? Yes,
that's awesome.
He's got the eyebrow raised. I just farted right now. I just broke wind, and you don't know.
Back then, I was like, man, I gotta put up this. We are going to go into blockbuster movies. We're going to talk about them, but more specifically, niching it down a little bit, talking about superhero movies. And superhero movies in 2019, up to a certain point, they kind of sucked. Sort of.
Yeah.
Sort of. I mean, they've been, let me put it this way. They haven't been stinkers. Like, maybe Godzilla. But they haven't been like...
But here's the thing about that. And I'm sure everyone will be nodding as I say this. Mm-hmm. They weren't so bad you remembered them, but they weren't so good you remember them either.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And they're like, yeah. He's like, yeah. So honestly, they're kind of forgettable.
Exactly. It's like we've had, several movies come out in this first 6 months. Now, I am excluding Spider-Man Far From Home. We're going to talk about that later, but that is actually one of the exceptions. It's probably not the great exception because it is good, but the fact that the matter is, like, the standout movie of the year is just good.
Right.
Right.
Because everything else was not good.
Right.
So this is the top of that not good heap is basically what you're saying.
This has been what they call a poor draft year.
Yes.
And well, Jerry Seinfeld said this about like racing in general. He says, so when you win second, he says, out of all the losers, you're the first one in that group. Yep. That's this giant fucking quote right there. So if you're second place, of all the losers, you're the first loser.
Yep.
And so you're kind of saying that. It's like this is the second place tier.
Yes.
It's kind of what you're saying.
Yes.
So they're not bad, but he's the top of the bad pile, which makes it look good.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Pretty much. And it's been disappointing. It's been really disappointing. And I would say this year is probably worse than 2016. 2016 we had some bad ones though. But 2016, like, there were at least a few that were just like, okay, this is still kind of good. You had Rogue One, which was good. You had Captain America Civil War. It's not great, but it's like, okay, it works its way in there.
Right.
A lot of plot holes in that one, but
yeah.
But overall, it was a good. I mean, the acting was good, and
yes.
the tension was good in terms of, like, at least to some degree. Yeah, there was some of it. I was like, huh?
Yeah. So but you had your ones that were on the downhill slope. You had the theatrical version of Batman v Superman, and which I still don't know how you followed. I still don't know how you followed that version, but you're just like, I know it's still bad, but I know what's going on. I'm just like, man, help! I'm like that Kevin Hart, help me. So like 2016 didn't have a lot in the win column. But there weren't as many movies that came out so quickly.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And the thing I was just trying to think about here is just like, we've had some, like, I'd say probably, actually no, there is a movie worse than Godzilla. That's Hellboy. That is Hellboy. I keep forgetting about it because my mind is just like trying to erase that from my memory. That was one of my AMC members. What do you call it? AMC whatever
reward. Was that a reward?
Yeah.
Was it really a reward though? Was it a real reward? I don't think it was.
Can I exchange this?
I know. Forget about the tragedy.
It's like, you get a free movie. No. I'll take some popcorn.
Yeah,
right.
There you go. But yeah, it's like that one. Bad film.
Wow.
Godzilla, bad film. Sorry for the fans out there, but it just is. It is a bad. Objectively, it is a bad film.
Godzilla.
Yeah.
Well, they didn't like the part when they bowed to him. I mean, come on, that was the best part. Like, it's like, my liege. You saw that, right? You saw it.
Yeah,
you didn't?
Like,
I'm at the end. He's like, and they're like, my liege.
Yeah.
And even the bird, the bird was like,
they bowed the wings and everything.
Like, it's my cloak, my lord,
Mufasa.
Yeah.
Like, basically, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. I don't know. Wow.
Captain Marvel, not good. Captain Marvel not good.
Hey, don't let her hear you say that.
Well, it's okay because I'm not a 40-year-old white man saying it. So
well, watch our P's and Q's, Mr. Murray. Sorry, Bree. Don't hurt us, Bree. Please don't hurt us. We didn't mean it.
Yeah, I gotta take shot. I mean no disrespect to Miss Brie Larson. It's just I gotta to have fun. Where I would expect someone to have fun with me if I said something screwed up. So hey, look, I take as good as I get.
Well, we said this in our review. She's actually a good actress.
Yeah, she's a very good actress.
I think what's happened in that particular one was because there were moments you're like, okay, and then all of a sudden, nope. Is like she started getting into it, but then like, oh no, it's a comic book hero movie. I got to be more ridiculous and silly or something. But when she hit those moments, and like some movies we've seen, we're like, okay, it's gonna happen. Oh no, they pulled back and stopped doing that, and we're like, it's like a fault. It's like the car getting ready to crank. You're like, and the car just doesn't crank, and you're like, fine.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
And then you've got your mediocre ones like now. You've got someone that are high mediocre, like a high level mediocre. They're kind of fun in that regard, and I would say Shazam is one of those. Like it's mediocre, but it's still fun. But if you sit back and really think about it, it's like, yeah, okay, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense, or whatever. You start thinking about like what's going on in the movie. You're like, okay, that doesn't jive very well, but it's still like, okay, high mediocre. I'll give it that.
Truthfully, with Shazam, I wasn't expecting that much.
Yeah.
Right.
True.
But I think it delivered. I think it delivered on what my expectations were for the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was just like it meant to be a fun popcorn.
Right.
Movie.
It didn't take itself too seriously.
Yeah,
right.
It meant to be that. It meant to be exactly what.
But that's the thing. You have to keep that. You can't go in being like a serious movie and start breaking into camp because then it's like, what is it? You can't be a campy movie and keep trying to be too serious. If you're going to be campy and wink at the camera, you got to hold that.
Yes.
Even if you're kind of the thing of, I like Deadpool because he realizes he's in a real world to the movie sense,
right.
but he's still talking to the camera. So he's not really breaking, kind of like The Office. That's part of the world. And so he doesn't get outside of that so much and it keeps it. And I think that makes it work.
Yes. Exactly.
Whereas if you try to, I don't know, if you're so silly and campy and then you try to be dramatic, like I must save the day, and you're like, okay, now that's really bad.
Yeah.
It's like, and then if you try to save the day and then you fall on your face, well, you're staying campy and that works, and then maybe like, I don't know, when you fall on your face and accidentally save the day and be like, yes, I did it. And then so then that holds.
Kind of like how
that holds.
For sure.
But so that works. That works.
Yeah, and like, and I'm not like saying like the camp or the is against the movie. I'm just saying like things that go on in the movie. There's things that don't make sense, and you got to hold that against it, like consistency wise and everything. So, and I got other movies like Glass. We've talked about Glass. Alita, it's all right. Hey, look, you can hate on us if you want to, but that's just the nature of it. It's okay. The truth hurts. Sorry.
Right. But that's another one where the parts were better than the whole, I think.
Yes.
Because we were like, oh, the world is so cool.
Yes.
I felt like it was, I think we were discussing this, I felt like it was compressed. Like it could have easily been 2 full movies.
It should have been. Well, because we said, you literally she did these things over like a week or so, not even a couple of weeks. And then they fast forwarded to 4 months later. I'm like, what happened? Did we fall asleep? What happened?
Did anything significant happen in that time period?
Yeah. I don't know. It just seemed, like I said, it seemed so rushed. And the poor kid died twice in that. I mean, like, really?
I'm like, wow. Yeah, okay. That's the Trinity thing. You don't do that in the story.
Wow. Exactly.
And yeah, so you're right. It could have just did that, and then you would have had a more character build, learn more about the characters. You could have cared more about the characters instead of like said pushing like go, push it on through. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just been a disappointing year.
Yeah.
Up to a certain point, and like I said, superhero movies in general. Now, granted, what I've been thinking about back in the day, and showing my age a little bit here, but I think about like blockbuster movies from back in the day, and like how they were classics. Now, we're all hits, that they're gonna have some misses, but you could definitely argue, especially in the 80s, there was more hits than misses. with Blockbuster Movies or whatever. Now, granted, you didn't have 3 or 4 of them coming out a year. You
right.
had,
that's certainly true.
You had like maybe one. If you got 3 a year, that was a great year. You know, but it was usually like 1 a year or something like that. Maybe a stretch would be 2 or whatever.
Well, yeah, they didn't put them out as quickly either. No. They took time because they had to, because the productions were bigger.
Yep.
Because they had to have a huge crew. You didn't have digital cameras, so you had like big giant rigs and dollies.
Lots and lots of practical effects.
A lot of practical, but also a lot more rehearsals too. They actually had a lot more rehearsals, run-throughs, because you had to, because you didn't have the digital instant look back at it and go, let's see, that's good. Okay, if not, we'll reset it. If so, then we're good. But yeah, and like I said, it was a big. I mean, think about like the movie The Abyss, for crying out loud. James Cameron filmed that almost all of it underwater in an actual underwater environment down in that big old water tank, and you're like, wow. I mean, these people
nuclear cooling towers.
Yeah, down in South Carolina. Yeah. And so they spent almost all the time underwater filming that, almost the entire movie, and people would stay like in like scuba stuff, like the crew, because they had to. In fact, he was under there a lot underwater. So you're just like, So that took a long time to do that.
Yeah, and like you said, they don't have the digital age didn't exist back then, and stuff. So they had to do
other than the water creature. That was about it.
Yeah,
the rest was done with models and practical effects. So
yeah. So, but I was going back and I'm like thinking about these movies that came out back then. All these are geek culture movies or something like that. But good example is going to be Aliens.
More James Cameron, yeah.
But the thing was, it's like you got Aliens, you got movies like, Back to the Future, comedy, but, just so I'm not like picking all like, serious action movies or something like that. There's comedic movies back then and stuff. And of course we got the classic. Everyone's going to know about Empire Strikes Back.
Oh yeah.
That's the apex right there.
Yeah.
Most people would say, that's
and of course Die Hard.
Die Hard,
But the thing was like about these movies that I always respected more is like they wanted to make good movies before they wanted to make an action movie.
Right.
Before they wanted to make it a blockbuster, a spectacle or whatever. They wanted to have they wanted to make the characters relatable and grounded and they were
flawed and the whole thing.
Well written and stuff like that. And like I said, every now and again you'd have your cheese fest or whatever.
Right.
You can go there and you just have some fun.
Arnold Schwarzenegger in Commando.
There's no real plot to that. It's just silly fun. It's a popcorn summer movie. I mean, obviously that would be The Rock doing it in the modern.
Oh thing.
That was the rundown. Basically, it's kind of the same thing.
Today, like this
Rampage.
Year, Rampage.
There you go.
Or actually, no, Rampage was last year. But same thing. Rampage. Yeah. But makes no damn sense. But it was like I had fun watching it. It was like
And then he was in like the San Andreas with the earthquake and. The whole thing. So, same kind of, other than a giant monster, it was an earthquake. So it was like basically the same thing. Yeah. Take away the giant monkey, put him in there, same thing. Put San Andreas underneath that, and it's the same exact movie.
Exactly. I mean,
basically it's the same.
No difference. Difference. But, like, he's kind of like, the Arnold Schwarzenegger
of the more,
Yeah. So, and the thing is like, but those movies, like, granted, there are quite a few of them, but they weren't like, they weren't the norm. The norm was like, like you actually had blockbuster movies like these are really good.
Like, you
had a reason that they were blockbusters.
Well, you had like Officer and a Gentleman. You had, like you said, Back to the Future. You had kind of the more serious ones, like Officer and Gentleman example. I mean, you had some other ones that were kind of like this one. This is from the 90s, right? Jurassic Park. Again, practical effects. But again, it's kind of like with, say, Star Wars and the other ones, the effects were difficult, so they had to develop characters, and they had to have more screen time for the characters to interact. So you actually cared and learned more about them, and you cared about them. And then when the dinosaur or the alien or whatever showed up, you're like, I don't know what that is, but I don't want it to hurt that person because I like them, or they're cool, or they're trying to save the kids or something.
Or you completely flip it and you have something like E.T. where you don't want them to hurt the alien.
The alien, absolutely. There you go. E.T. is another good example from the 80s. Absolutely.
That one. So, but it's just like, you're talking about, Jurassic Park. I'm trying to figure out when when the shift happened. When did the
Jurassic Park 3.
That's
when that happened.
I mean, well, yeah, Jurassic Park 3. That's definitely for the franchise and everything. But I mean, like, just in general, like, you know, like, when did the norm become just turn your brain off and enjoy it. Shove popcorn in your face. Like, this is the norm. And the other thing is, like, they're considered, or they will be labeled as good movies. That's what I don't understand. And it's just
well,
like,
honestly,
that's what I don't get. You know, it's just like.
Well, we've talked about this in some of the reviews, for example, with like Alita Battle Angel or some other ones, where they just kind of crank out these kind of movies that are just sort of, But nowadays, again, it's mostly younger folks, really, and again, showing our age here, but they seem to like think that these are great movies because of the effects are good, and that's it. Yeah. Like, what about character? What about story? What about everything? Because if you take a movie and you look at what a great movie, for example, like Jurassic Park, let's take that one. The effects were good. The actors were good. Yep. The music was good. The tension was good. The plot was good. I mean, there might have been some issues here and there, but there weren't gaping plot holes that you see, like in say the last Star Wars movie or something.
I mean, they adapted it from the book.
Right.
Michael Crichton, great author. And while they changed a few minor things in the plot, you're dealing with, a literary piece.
Right. A well-written one from a well-written author. Because, again, Crichton, a lot of movies, not Jaws eventually, but a lot of movies were based off of, Michael Crichton stuff, but also books like, Jaws, for example, from books, as opposed to just, I don't know, remakes or ideas.
Oh, yeah. But, I mean... some of the older films, especially, you go back through time. A lot of the older movies, they were books well before movies.
Right.
Nuance is going away.
Right.
Nuance is going away. Like, well, I shouldn't say it's going away. It's just like it's
slowly dying. I think it really is. It's on life support.
Yeah, it's not showing up in these like the superhero movies like they should and everything. And everyone's just like, well, it's just a superhero movie. See, that's the mindset you got to get yourself out of.
Right.
You got to get yourself out of that mindset because. Lo and behold, they were just like, all right, because here's the thing. If you want to have that argument, is anyone here going to argue that Batman and Robin is not a bad movie? No one here is going to argue that, right? But by that same, logic, it's like, oh, it's just a superhero movie. Who cares? Well,
I think we had talked about this before. Kind of like, you gotta have a little respect for your audience.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. let them put pieces together sometimes or whatever. You don't have to.
But that speaks right back to what we talked about before. Is like, it doesn't matter what the character, male, female, whatever color, blah blah blah. None of that matters. What matters is the story should be good, and it's inconsequential what genre you're talking because. It doesn't matter that it's a superhero film. It matters, like, say, Winter Soldier, and I think did it to a good extent of kind of building.
Yes.
Because again, you had, you're thrown into it and it built. And then they were researching and finding out what was going on with the Winter Soldier and who is he. And now Cap's on the run and Scarlet Witch is helping. And so you had that kind of tension sort of build up to figure out. And then all of a sudden it's like, Bucky? And you're like, oh, that's cool because that tension built and built and built. It wasn't like rush, and then as Professor Tosspot says, tension, sexy cousin Jeopardy. Yeah. It's the tension there, and all of a sudden you're like, yeah, there was Jeopardy, but it was the tension of what's happening as it builds, and then you get that kind of beat change, and then you go boom. Oh man!
Yeah, Winter Soldier was almost like a fugitive movie.
Yes,
with a superhero ending.
But that's the thing; it doesn't matter the genre of film. I mean, it doesn't matter science fiction, doesn't matter monsters, doesn't matter none of that. You're still going to have characters that make sense and you care about, and that characters learn, and they'll go. And then the next movie, they go, "Okay, I'm doing the same thing again." You're Mickey. You can't do that. You just can't do that.
That's just
like,
that's the thing. Like,
no, you can't do that.
You have those movies that that really stand out. Winter Soldier was definitely one of them. Winter Soldier is definitely one of them. To a certain extent, Infinity War, same. Was close. Was close to that regard. But just you had those movies. Logan.
Yeah.
Wonderful movie.
Yeah.
Of course, The Dark Knight.
You're right.
Dark Knight. And, like I said, you can make arguments like, well, not every movie needs to be like this. Very true. That's a fair argument. But not every movie needs to be like I said, turn your mind off popcorn fest where you're just not, think about it enough so you can enjoy it. Not every movie. Now, granted, we need those movies. We need movies like Shazam. We need movies like Ant-Man. Just to, go there, just like, we're just here to have some fun. Right. We know that they're not going to be like A-list movies or anything, but hey, look, we just want to go and
the Fast and Furious. It's
exactly.
Oh Lord.
Hey, Transformers. People like they want to go there. It's like, hey, look, do your thing.
You got some giant metal balls to talk about Transformers, my friend. How dare you bring up that Transformers? It's funny. My wife wanted to watch the Fast and the Furious because she likes kind of heist kind of movies and stuff.
Okay.
And she was really disappointed in Fast and the Furious. She was like, "How much longer is this movie going on?" I was like, "I have no idea." She was not happy with it because she was like, "Oh, let's check it out," because she looked it up. And personally, I think Ronin is a great heist movie. Yes, in terms of that's another one.
After you recommended.
Yeah, Ronin. You have some great actors in it. There's a decent score. I can't say it stands out, but it's not like it doesn't detract either. You got the building of the characters, and I got to say it's got two of the best car chases probably ever in the movies. And there's a few out there that aren't great, but there's some really good ones out there. And that's a great heist type movie when they're trying to get the case from whatever. But then again, you don't know much. They kind of throw you into the deep end, and then you start learning about the characters, and you go, okay, something's going on with this guy, and you go, this guy's leading on to more than he knows, and then he kind of starts like testing the other people out a little bit, and then he goes, okay, now I know who to watch out for, and go, okay, that guy's a poser, that guy's serious, this guy seems like he's on my side, and he seems genuine, and like, all right, so kind of interact with him a little bit, and then realize, okay, the guy is kind of the team player, Jean Renault's character. And you're like, okay, this is cool. And so everybody kind of has their kind of archetype characters and the way they interact and the way they talk. And I think the characters themselves are just vibrant and kind of there. And I'm like, oh, that's really good. And I can't remember who the director was. And I hate that, but it's just a great movie. So if you've never seen Ronin, we count in the 90s. Totally awesome. But that's another one where all the pieces fit together really well. Again, the scenery tells the story of it's in like southern France and stuff, and the different characters, the different relationships, and car chases, the espionage, and stuff like that. I mean, it's really kind of cool. Even like I said, but it doesn't matter. Like for example, Dark Knight, for example, the Joker. I mean, nobody can say right now he's kind of the top of the list in terms of probably the best Jokers out there.
Right.
From from Heath Ledger's one performance, deserved of an Oscar, obviously. Not because he passed away, but because it was awesome. Because it was awesome.
Exactly.
And that's kind of, the level. Now I will say Mark Hamill's is a different story, but yeah, so stuff like that. Yeah, this is a cheesy superhero movie, but good characters, good ideas, and good stories. Not perfect in some instances, but
yeah.
They're superhero movies, so some of that you kind of have to go, okay, well, I'm going to suspend disbelief in that a little bit.
For certain things, yes, because like it's part of like the world building. And
right.
You can say like, okay, like Superman, like I had this conversation with a subscriber, and it was a great conversation. But it was a good question. He was just like, well, we were talking about like the Alita, and we're talking about the spaceship being out there, still being
right.
Working
just happens to have one suit, just ready, waiting for her.
Yeah, but we were talking about that. It was like, well, yeah, that's a fair point. But it was like, how do you differentiate between that and like say Spider-Man having spider powers from being bitten by a radioactive spider? Just like where do you suspend your disbelief?
Right.
And I said, well, here's the thing, and this is the way I put it. I said, all right, so everything in Alita, in that city, everything in Alita says that this ship should be basically on cinder blocks.
Right.
Nothing in there, should be working or anything like that. Everything in Alita up to that point says like, okay, it says that this should not happen.
Right.
Is it possible? It's a real big stretch, but the way this world is built is saying like, okay, this should be on cinder blocks right now, you know.
But yeah, because you've already set up like these people will go around at night and like bring you over the head and steal your body parts.
Yeah, tech is really important.
I'm like, you got at the beginning, the doctor's out there and everyone else is scavenging and he finds these parts. So everyone, you see other people doing it as well. So you're like, you're right. And no, everybody knows where it is.
Exactly.
Because they drove right out to it.
Exactly.
And that's the thing I didn't understand about that. I was like, wow, the outside of the city is so much nicer than the inside. Why would you not live there? It's like, why is it dangerous? There's no giant monsters running around. There's no radiation because you wouldn't be out there. It looked a lush, beautiful place.
Nice farming
fresh,
community.
Clean water.
And
trees, water, pond.
Why would you not? I mean, no offense. There's less people out there that would steal your body parts in the city.
Yeah, and someone even said like they didn't understand why they didn't put that in from the book, because the book said like they were saying like, yeah, the book says like it's really dangerous out here and stuff. So he didn't understand like why that wasn't put into the movie.
Nope,
like,
Garden of Eden in the movie.
Yeah. so like you have that, and I'm like, okay, that's an inconsistency with the story, with the plot, with their world building.
Right.
So if you were to say like, okay, Spider-Man got bitten by a radioactive spider, real life, yes, dude's dead 10 times over. Real life, understandable. But in this story, you're saying like, okay, this radioactive spider bit him, gave him superpowers. Now, if that, same radioactive spider bit like 16 other people and they all died from radiation poisoning or whatever, well, you better have a good damn reason as to why Peter survived this.
Right.
So that's the difference, because we've seen in the comics that people have been bitten by those same radioactive spiders. Miles Morales is the most famous one. Bitten by those same radioactive spiders, get spider powers. And the one thing I would argue is like, okay, there's a little bit of difference. Miles Morales has some different powers and stuff, and I'm just like, okay, I don't understand why he can do this, and Peter can't. But that's what I'm saying. Like consistency within the world that you've built.
Right, and then from my understanding, at least the one incarnation of Spider Woman, she got a transfusion, I think, from Peter or something. So then, of course, her powers are a little bit different because hers like not webs or psychic webs or something.
Yeah.
So it's a little different. So maybe it's kind of like with mutants, like there's a metabolism or a kind of a, your body's interaction or something with
some sort of genetic component.
Yeah, something, there's something
and that I would understand, but that's something that you would have to explain. You can't just say like, oh, well, it's this way now for this person. I'm like, no, you can't do that. You'd have to explain why this is this way, and it better be a good dang reason as to why it's different.
Right.
So, and that's the difference. That's the difference. Like part of the world building, like Superman having all the powers that he has and everything like that. You accept that because it's like, okay, that's the universe that he lives in, or whatever. Right. That okay, he's gonna have this. He could do all of these things or whatever. Sure,
but you're staying true to the suspension of disbelief for that particular story,
right?
Basically,
right.
Well, I mean that's like good science fiction, right? Good science fiction it's supposed to be a real-ish world, but there is this technology, or there is this thing that works magically.
Yeah, it just works. That exactly. Harry Potter, you suspend your disbelief because hey, there's magic in this world.
Right?
Does it exist in real life? Sure, but probably not. But like wizardry and stuff like that, like that's their world. That's the world that they built in. So like,
and the rules are consistent for that world. They can't go, well, they're consistent here, but here they're different.
Exactly. That's the thing. That's the thing. Like with storytelling, you've got to be consistent. When you build your rules, you got to stick to them, and we don't get that all the time. That's the other things. Like we don't get that all the time. And so that stuff like that just really starts to bring down movies. And look, Endgame was the perfect example of that.
Right.
Setting up its rules and then immediately breaking them. Right. Godzilla setting up rules, immediately breaking them.
And actually, if you go back to Force Awakens, the scar that moved. Remember they moved the scar on Kylo Ren's face.
Kylo Ren, yeah.
So I was like, what? Why? Why is that? What?
Well, even still, like the thing with the lightsabers. Lightsabers were known to sever limbs. And
yeah, now they're like, nah, not really.
Like, yeah, they're just
like, oh, it's a bad shaving kit. Just put a little styptic pencil on that. You're good to go. It's like, say, come here, Finn. Put a little styptic pencil on that. There we go. That makes you feel a little burn a little bit, but other than that, you're good to go.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, they're no more dangerous than regular swords for the most part.
Yeah.
Like probably even less dangerous or whatever because see what happened with Finn. I'm just like, oh, Finn's fine.
Yeah, you're like,
I'm like you should not have a spine.
Put him in a rubber suit with some liquid and he's good to go. and here's the thing that perplexes me to no end in all of these instances. It's like, why isn't there more pushback from the other side to say, come on, guys, seriously, you're going to do this to all the women or whatever? It doesn't have to be women, but It's like, it's like, come on, guys, don't we deserve better than this?
Yes.
I mean, again, it's kind of like with anything else. It's like, politically or like, say you like a certain movie, like if you like that thing, politician, whatever, shouldn't you expect more if they're the ones you're doing? Like if you're like this ex-politician, doesn't matter who it is. Wouldn't you want them to do better? Wouldn't you want them to? You don't want them to do less than the other politician or whoever, right? You don't want this movie or character or world or franchise or whatever to do worse than the other one. You wouldn't expect less out of them. I mean, again, if you were a parent and you had that same attitude, let's say from your child, you would not stand for that. You would say, no, I want you better than me. That's what every parent would say to their child. I want you to do better than me, son. I had it so hard when I was a kid, son. I want you to do better. I want you to do these things. I didn't go to college. I want you to go to college. I didn't have much. I want you to have more. And so it's the same thing with, fill in the blank here. It's like, I want it to be better than what I had. And shouldn't you say, okay, yes, I believe in girl power or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But then you accept kind of like the Ray character who didn't do anything to progress to where she is. It's like, so why is that a great role model for young girls to say, you don't have to struggle hard like other characters did to get to where you want to be? It's like, what? It'll just happen. It'll just be given to you. I mean, there's nothing you have to overcome. You don't have to work hard. That's kind of what it's
called.
The
hero's journey for a reason.
But not according to the modern cinema for some extent, like the Ray character. Well, she's just great.
Yeah.
So my point again, if she was so great in the first movie, then why was she still on that planet? She already couldn't build a ship. She already could fly a ship. She already knew how all these alien languages. Why didn't she build a ship and then fly away and go find her parents? If she was already that capable, that made more sense as the character to say, I'm great at all these things, but I've been holding myself back. And then have her say, all right, kind of like the kid in what's the movie, the Dark Crystal. He says, okay, I'm going, and he strikes out on his own, alone then. And he goes out and he doesn't know what to do. He's clueless. He's like, I got to go this way. I'm scared, but I'm going to do this. And he faces that crazy, strange world on his own. And then when he meets the other girl, Gelfling, he goes, all right, together then. And then it's like, boom, they're striking out again. They don't know what to happen. They know probably could die because this is going to be, they're walking into something nasty, but they did it. They reached inside themselves, which is what she should have done as a character. Because let's say, people say, well, she's waiting there because her parents said they would come back. I go, but she's almost an adult now. She's basically an adult at this point and she's capable.
Yes.
Then if she's that capable, why would she not say, I'm worried about them. They said they would come back by now and I'm kind of nervous. And she would say, I know how to build a ship. I know how to get the parts. I know all these other things and, can speak alien languages, et cetera, et cetera. And I feel there's something inside of me that's calling. That's the hero's journey. That's the calling. And you're like, boom, I'm going to do this. And then show her still do the scrapping and stuff, but only giving them the second best parts, her keeping the best parts for herself, building a ship, flying away, go find them. And then she could do all these other things. And that would be more exciting because then she found the strength within herself that she didn't know she had. And now she's doing more. And then as she does more, she realizes she can do more. And then she overcomes these things. And like you said, and that's the hero's journey. That made more sense instead of her just saying, well, I'll just sit around and wait, because I'm just a girl, I guess. I don't know. And I'm like, see, that's insulting. Why are girls standing for that?
Exactly.
I mean, it doesn't make sense for the character and doesn't make sense in terms of saying, oh, I want a strong, empowered, the Force's female character. But if that's true, then why should she find the strength within herself? I don't know. To me, that just makes it a better story.
Bill, if you didn't need this mic, I would let you drop it. If you didn't need it, I would let you drop it right now. Because you said something all of that. 100% agree. That's perfect way to sum it up. Because I've always felt the same way, and I've gotten questions like, well, why? What do you expect from these movies and stuff like that? I'm like, I love comics. Don't ever mistake it. I love comics. You can say if you see the Comic Junkies Corner videos, you see all my geek corner in the back, and that's not even all of it. So like, I love them. I want them to be great. I want them to be considered as a majority of great movies and everything. I want them to be taken seriously. It's like, not like, obviously a comedy's not going to take itself seriously, but I'm just saying, like, take the content seriously, take the source material seriously, take this movie seriously, do better. You can do better. You have done better. Stay there. And you know what? Just, no, not stay there, but like, just steady trying to improve. Always get better. Don't backslide. Don't get lazy because, like, oh, well, audiences still like it. So, don't worry about it.
And don't lean on the technology is better, therefore I have to do less.
Yes.
Because that's the worst thing you do. You don't go, oh, well, I don't have to think as hard about the story because look at the pretty pictures and watch the explosions.
Exactly.
We'll just fix it all in post.
Yeah, it's like, we'll just take care of that in post. We'll just, edit out that sword or whatever. We don't, whatever.
Yes. And I challenge you as audience members to demand better.
Yeah.
Demand, but don't settle for less. Don't settle for like just the generic popcorn. Yes, you can accept what they are, for right now, but it's just like, all right, this is fine, but you can do better. We should want better. We shouldn't be backsliding. We're at a point now where we're just like, we were hitting this peak and then we're just like sliding right on back.
Because we've heard this many, many times, and it's been after the films usually when we're talking to people, or people hear us talking, or we, like the guy cleaning up that one time, he goes, oh, that's fine. I said, no, do not accept that kind of like, well, we just don't worry about that part.
Yeah.
Because like then it kind of, now you have that random thread that you pulled upon out all starts to unravel because you go, well, if you excuse that bit, then you excuse this other bit, and you excuse this other bit, and now the whole thing kind of has a cascade failure where everything's starting to fall apart. It's like, but now it's all a conglomeration of bad things, and then people go, well, it's good because it was flashy and looked cool.
Yes.
I'm like, but see, that's the bait and switch, the shiny thing that's like, oh, I won't think too hard. I'll just go in and watch lasers and explosions.
You know what's also flashy and cool?
What?
Some TV commercials.
Right. There you go. There you go. I mean, you have to, I mean, especially now movies are getting longer, you have to keep their interest by doing flashy things. And that way they don't think too hard about it and go, like, well, why do they need this thing? Because, well, we saw they don't really need the thing. So why are they going to get the thing that they don't really need? That doesn't make any sense. Like, what? I don't know.
Exactly. Exactly.
Poor writing is one thing.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
the laziness of, well, we'll just CGI it or edit in post production or something, as opposed
call it
to
the blip.
What's that?
We'll call it the blip.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. We'll get to that. That's another thing we'll get to. But yeah,
sounds exciting. I can't wait.
Yeah, that's a Spider-Man Far From Home reference. So, but yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. But yeah, that's do better.
Not just do better, like he said, demand better.
Yes.
I mean, don't start throwing your money at these movies because, oh, it's the next whatever thing.